Hi, I'm Brian Rodriguez-Gonzalez. I'm going to be giving my speech 3 for Communications 101. Here are my 5 audience members. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, do you want a chair to sit down?
Okay.
Imagine for a second, if you will, you're trying to bake a cake. You're following a recipe instructed to you by your aunt. Now, you don't know this, but your aunt secretly wants brownies. So after a long, arduous process of telephone, when you go to pull what you think is a cake out of the oven, to your surprise, it's brownies. Now, you're disappointed because you followed the instructions, but you didn't know that you were being misinformed by someone that had ulterior motives. The reality of this metaphor is that the cake is your well-being. The recipe is the information that you consume on a daily basis. And your aunt, well, she's a mega-rich tech corporation who's built an algorithm to feed you misinformation, to keep you engaged onto their site. I want to talk to you today about this algorithm and the dangers that this algorithm poses to the way that we think. We will talk about data. We will be talking about data mining, how these algorithms function, how we engage with them, and most importantly, how the steps that we can take to consciously engage with these types of medias so we don't end up feeding the grinding machine of misinformation. First, let's talk about mining. Who wants to know what you did last Tuesday and who you did it with? Companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of these other companies offer free services so you can connect to the world. But you must remember that attention right now is one of the most prized commodities. And if you're getting a free service, then most likely you are the product. In an interview in New York Times for Data Protection Commissioner Johannes Kasper, he said that when you engage with Facebook, you are at risk of being subject to non-transparent analyses, profiling, and other mostly obscure algorithmic processes. These analyses and processes, or algorithms, aim to gather the data of their more than 3 billion users. Their main goal is to curate content to keep us engaged, to create targeted ads. But sometimes these algorithms are used for more nefarious purposes. Such was the case when in 2014, Cambridge Analytica and Alexander Kogel, a researcher from Cambridge, came together to mine the data of more than 90 million users. They used an algorithm created by Kogel that could predict the personalities of Facebook users using their data, better even than the Facebook users' family or spouses. We agreed to this though when we signed up for these services, but I think that if we knew what our data was being used for, we wouldn't be so quick to sign on the virtual dotted line. Secondly, let's talk about how they use our personal data to change the way that we're thinking and our perception of reality. See, companies such as Facebook and Twitter have spent millions of dollars to create predictive algorithms whose main goals are to keep us engaged onto their site and thus to view more ads. They do this by employing cognitive dissonance theory. This is a psychological reaction to when we find information that doesn't agree with our personal beliefs. It makes us feel uncomfortable and we search for things that we already agree with. Even though they may be biased, we're okay with it if they're biased towards our beliefs. These algorithms use that response and push media tailored to our already established beliefs. The more that we see this content, the more that we feed it, and the more that we receive it back. And we start to disband the reality that is behind us and embrace the reality we wish to be true. This is the echo chamber effect. This is especially worrisome when we realize that Pew Research did a study that showed that more than 43% of TikTok users gather their news from TikTok. Google as well has participated in this type of algorithmic function, as they have publicly had a hands-off approach for their search results. In an investigation by Wall Street Journal in 2019, they actually showed that Google did alter the algorithm to favor big businesses, they also were found to be blacklisting certain controversial sites or research or search results that created controversy. In fact, the Google News displayed right next to the search bar isn't regulated, and they don't have their hands-off approach to that method. As a matter of fact, it's curated to show you what you agree with. When you put all of these actions taken by these companies together with an algorithm whose main function is engagement, it's not a stretch to think that our perception of reality is at risk of being changed by these algorithms. So what can we do to keep ourselves from falling into the common traps laid out by these algorithms? Media literacy. Through this communications class, crash course on YouTube, and medialiteracy.com, I have learned the importance of staying cognizant when we're absorbing media. See, this speech here is media, and you are absorbing it. Media is all around us, and your brain is constantly trying to decide what to do with all that information. Medialiteracy.com defines media literacy as a skill to navigate our complex and ever-changing media landscape. And there are 4 steps that you can take to make sure that you are media literate. The first one is to consider the relevance of the content that you are reading or watching. If you're trying to find a new apartment and you find a Taco Bell listing for possible apartments in your area, think about why Taco Bell wants you to find an apartment within the vicinity of their newest location. Third, think about the accuracy of the media. Or secondly, think about the accuracy of the media. Did the speaker or author provide reliable and ethical sources to back up their claim? Or did they copy and paste wiki links to prove their own claim? Third, think about the biases. What does the author have to gain from you knowing the knowledge that you are reading or watching? If Taco Bell publishes health benefits on how to eat tacos, what do they have to gain from that, from you knowing that information? And lastly, reliability. Does the author have a habit of lying? Try to look for established authors and journalists who have had years of credible information published under their name. You're not expected to be an expert in everything, but you can look to experts to help you form opinions on tough topics. See, the dichotomy of it all is that we need these platforms to connect to our modern world. But we must practice a form of cognitive connection to declutter the constant bombardment of algorithmic content that we absorb on a daily basis. In conclusion, when we apply critical thinking and the 4 steps that we talked about today, we can minimize the amount of misinformation and biased content that we absorb daily, therefore minimizing the effects that negative outside forces might have on our opinions and well-being. Right now we live in an unprecedented time with rising cost of living, rental and housing crisis. So it's hard enough to just find enough time to get by. But it is especially important now to stay grounded in honest and truthful information. When establishing America, Thomas Jefferson wrote, "And were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter, because even then he knew that without honest information, we lose power." And then my 5 audience members are still here and alive.